What could CIG really do to deepen chaos? I mean immersion in Star Citizen. Surprisingly, the answer might be simpler than it sounds. For example, considering that every ship in game, from the smallest light fighters, or even snobs, to the larger capital vessels, each of them have an array of thrusters, engines, control surfaces, or maneuvering boosters, sometimes up to 20 or perhaps even more per ship. These small little thrusters, these components, are scattered across the ship's frame, and damaging them right now doesn't really do anything. To be fair, the most amount of immersion we get right now from damaging a ship is either doors opening or weapons or parts of the wings just breaking off. And that can include the loss of control of the ship. Yeah, the future plans are nice with the engineering, fuses, fires, and swapping out perhaps modules. But instead, imagine ballistic weapons tearing into the hull, destroying thrusters mid-flight and sending the ship spinning out of control. Not exploding outright, but forcing the pilot to wrestle with the crippled but still living machine. Okay, that is a bit extreme, but the potential is there, as the ships do have many of these minor parts, minor modules, minor thrusters, which technically exist, and now it's just a question of how they will manage to control it. In most cases, losing a thruster, okay, yeah, you don't get like more leftwards thrust, upwards thrust, wherever. But this way it might be a bit extreme, as even hovering might get broken. There's so much untapped power in the system CIG has already built. Unfortunately, some of the bolder ideas haven't made it in yet. On the bright side, many of them remain in active development, like the dynamic economy, base building, new star systems, persistent entity streaming, and the long-awaited server meshing. Each of these has faced numerous ups and downs, but they play in a similar way, always moving forward slowly, but expanding out in this immersive universe, from the player limitations to persistent vehicles and all of that nature. And yes, even in these scenarios, things might sometimes get taken a bit too far. As perhaps you remember when the vehicles persisted around bunkers. They were just cluttered all over the places, around the stations, everywhere. Because Star Citizen is designed with realism in mind, as even the developers have frequently stated, it runs a risk of pushing immersion too far. Yes, depth is great, but there are fine lines between immersion gameplay and overwhelming complexity. The game can sometimes already feel as if it's becoming a Star Citizen job simulator, where your evening game sessions can feel more like clocking in for a second shift. Not all the time, of course, there are simple activities you can take part in, but if you want to do something bigger, you need to have quite a bit of time. Don't get me wrong, we do want a living, breathing, immersive universe, a galaxy-wide trade network, diverse planetary biomes, dynamic weathers, aliens, wildlife, and active star systems. That's the dream. But so many of these features have been postponed, delayed, or indefinitely shelved. Honestly, I don't expect to see a real-time economy, shifting weather patterns, or new alien threats until the Squadron 42 is released, if even then. Of course, this year the base building and crafting were heavily marketed, even last year actually. But I would remain skeptical. No doubt they'll make it before the year's end, or at least some parts of it, to show off if nothing else. But it feels like Pyro all over again. Promised long before it was delivered, and when it finally arrived, it wasn't exactly smooth. Ships with drones, ground vehicles with med-based base building, systems intended for building and crafting in general. It's all great in theory, but most of it hasn't materialized yet. And yes, I think the base building will likely face similar delays. That doesn't make me a pessimist, it makes me a realist. Star Citizen's development cycle has consistently proven that whatever estimate is given, the actual delivery date is usually much further. Pyro, for example, was talked about for years before it appeared, and even then it was riddled with issues. While I'm not saying base building will face exact same fate, CIG's track record doesn't inspire much confidence in meeting intended deadlines. Just look at engineering gameplay, another deep, promised feature but nowhere near release. At the core of it is a frustrating truth. Expectations and timelines are almost never aligned in this development. And even with their typical extensions, there are still many half-implemented features. Most of them may be functional but still bug-ridden, glitchy, or lacking polish. Despite the long road and frequent detours, Star Citizen continues to attract new players. New ships, new systems, and new mechanics are rolled out every year. The community hasn't given up, and that they are actually working on new features does give it some hope. Just maybe we'll be surprised and CIG will shift gears and fix the long-term neglected features over the next couple of years, or at least start fixing them one by one. Eventually they will need to start dealing with it, and the new features, Immersion, half-baked ideas, they will need to set a priority and get even the old things fixed while keeping the new things afloat. I don't know what the future holds, but if they will have some restraint without trying to implement all the time everything new and actually start fixing some of the old things, maybe there is some real hope to get certain stability into the game, which they did actually promise us at the beginning of this year. But I've been angry for long enough. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.